You can still achieve weight loss done the same way, but it might just take you a bit longer, or you might just have to sacrifice calories in a different way. But one of the points that I wanted to say on what you said there, when people lose weight, they think that they perform better because they're not carrying the extra weight, which is a true statement. But think about what's happening. The weight that you've lost is no longer there. So the oxygen that was supplying that fat can now go to the working muscles. A lot of the reasons why people perform better when they lose weight is they become more aerobic dominant. They become a lot more efficient because their VO2 has gone higher, because there's more oxygen availability. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is there a point there where you could lose too much? We've had a few people on the podcast recently that have talked about how there's more to it than the weight loss. And you were touching on it there, which was, don't think more about trying to lose the weight, think about more trying to fuel. So is there that balance line, or when you're training people 12, 16 weeks out from the marathon, it's like the goal here is to fuel for your training?
Oh, unquestionable. I do not want any of my athletes, unless they need to lose weight. But when we start to get up to the business end of things, 10 weeks to go to Dublin or 10 weeks to go to any marathon, you need to be performing. You don't need to be worrying about the calories that you're consuming to trigger weight loss. Remember, the fuel you put in is directly related to the performance you put out. And if you're creating too big of a caloric deficit, you are not going to be able to perform the way that you want to do. You are not going to be able to recover. You are not going to be able to produce the force. And there's a very, very high chance you're going to increase the risk of injury, cramp, lowered immunity, whatever it might be, to the extreme where you become, as everyone was speaking about, the likes of fractures or pre-exposing yourself to weaker bones. I personally don't want my clients losing weight on a marathon journey. That can't be their focus.
You obviously know your shit. And you've been in the business so long, 13 plus years doing it. You know the ins and outs of it. You know fueling performance. You're also very active on social media. And like we said at the start of the intro, and it's true, anytime someone mentions VO2 max testing, it's either directly or indirectly linked to you. With that being said, as we record this podcast, you just did the half marathon this weekend. Great time. Congrats on that, your first race. Do you feel any pressure of being like, you're obviously putting in the principles of what you do and trying to get yourself towards that starting line, and anything can happen to anyone leading up to a marathon. Now, I've gone to marathons and I shouldn't have done for various different reasons, injuries and all the rest. It's just either I didn't feel, or it was a bad day, shouldn't have trained, I shouldn't have trained, and got an injury and whatever. Do you feel any sort of pressure documenting your journey week in, week out, close to time, and people looking at it going, what if you don't make the starting line, or what if you don't get the times you want based on your pretty much your livelihood, based on what you do and tell people? Do you feel any pressure at all with that?
No.
Moving on.
Last year I did it as well. And last year I got injured. And I accepted well before I publicized the fate that I wasn't going to do the marathon last year. And it affected people more than it affected me. I had people coming up to me on the street, hugging me and saying they were so sorry that I wasn't going to do the marathon. I was like, it's grand. Like, I'm cool with it. You don't be upset that I can't do the marathon. I really enjoyed the journey. I'm very hard on myself, right? I'm incredibly hard on myself, to the point that I don't leave anything to chance. I stick to what I said I'm going to stick to the letter of the law. Brian Swaby, the running coach on the marathon program that we do, who I've worked with for years, is an absolute hero of a coach. He said recently enough, he's like, fucking hell, Sean, you really stick to what you say you're going to stick to. If I don't stick to what I'm telling people that they have to stick to, that's not the way to do it. I said that I was going to commit to do this. And when I commit to do something and I go on in and I want to go and do it, I go and do it. And I do not care for 1 second what anybody thinks of it or what anybody other's thoughts are on it. I do feel not any pressure. Do you know, the half marathon was some crack every 2 feet. Go on the help, man. Go on the VO2, man. You know, just constantly people shouting at me because we're doing so many appointments. Like Keelan, who works for me, said, you're going to get haggled every step of the way. and it was amazing. Mile 12 up that hill on Sunday. I honestly thought I was done. I thought I'd gone too early. I was gonna get sick.